It's
Okay,
not good.
Aaron. Okay, so Aaron Evans, welcome and thank you very much for joining me today. Now, I know that you're a guy that knows a thing or two about how to sell. I've spoken to a couple of people and they have told me that actually you're the person to talk to about how to deal with people that have replied to messages that we may have sent out. Now, it's an interesting area because I would say that the vast majority of people I talk to are way before that. So they're how to do the data, how to look for signals in the data, and how to choose the right prospects, and then it's like how to write emails that create impact and cut through the clutter, and all of this kind of stuff, how to deliver, what best times to deliver, things like that. But not very many people talk about, well, how do we respond to the leads that come in? And that's a really interesting area. So when I spoke, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, to someone, he said, you got to talk to Aaron because Aaron knows a thing or two about this area. So would you like to introduce yourself? Just give us a bit of your story. Tell us a little bit about your background first.
Yeah, sure. Well, firstly, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm very excited about this conversation. Well, I've spent the last probably 14 years working in something called sales enablement, right? Which is fundamentally the conduit between everything in an organization and the sales department. So my job is to make sure that I'm constantly developing, training, upskilling, and increasing the competency of sales organizations. And one of the things that obviously falls under my remit is training people on how to respond to emails and how to engage customers over emails in general, really. Worked for many organizations, from large, huge multinational corporates all the way down to sort of small, nimble startups. And this all culminated in 2014 when I IPO'd a business in Australia. So I've been fortunate enough to work across the globe for many organizations in many different countries. And yeah, I'm very excited to talk to you about this subject. It's something that's particularly close to my heart, which is how to respond to those negative or even difficult conversations over email.
Yeah, so you've given away a little bit of the thunder that I was going to go on to there. But obviously, when people see replies come in from a cold email outreach campaign, their eye is trained to look for, yes, please, let's jump onto a call. Because you know what? That's pretty easy, isn't it? You just pick the phone up, or you send through a Calendly link or whatever it might be. And we can cover that off in a second. But one of the things that I notice is that when somebody says, no, thanks, this isn't for us, typically the customer that I'm working with who gets that response doesn't do anything. They leave it then. They don't reply. And sometimes I think, you know what, I'm wondering if you're missing an opportunity there.
Absolutely.
What's your feeling? What would you do if you got a reply in that somebody says, no, thanks, just not of interest to us right now?
Well, let's dissect that, because that's really interesting, right? So if someone had taken the time to read your email, respond to it, fundamentally sit there and type an answer and a response and then send it to you, there's something there straight away, right? Now, that's different from someone saying, look, take me off your mailing list and, you're in breach of GDPR. That's obviously slightly different.
Yeah.
But it's basically like a fob off, right? Or it can be an objection. Someone basically saying, look, I'm not sure about this fundamentally. So that one that you've given there, and as an example, if someone's turned around and say, look, this is not of interest to us, or we're already using a provider of this at the moment, or something along those lines, that's actually a really good way to actually start engaging the customer and fundamentally having a conversation, right? So the example you gave there of that this isn't of any interest to us, I'd turn around and again, inject some humility to it and let them know that there's a human being on the other side of the email. Say, look, fully understand that a lot of the people I speak to usually have something in place that they're using to solve this problem. Be curious to understand, what exactly did you guys go for when making a decision around XYZ and whatever the proposition or the product is? And all of a sudden you're starting to engage in a bit of a dialogue, right? I think where we go wrong is that we're expecting the call to action to be the customer to just want to engage with us and sell us and us to sell them something. Well, that's very, very rare, right? The reality is most of the people that you're sending your emails out to probably aren't in a position to buy right now. But we could nurture those customers by having conversations with them, learning about their organization, engaging with them, and being front of mind. So when they're ready to make that decision, you're the proposition or product or service that they're looking for.
Yeah. So I'm now tempted to look at some of these other ones that are in front of me, okay, and just kind of dig a little bit deeper into your way of thinking, because I love the fact that you're instantly recognizing that they've taken time out of their day to reply to you. And that's something that you've got to say thank you for that, even if you are replying to a no. It's like, I really appreciate you letting me know, or taking time out of your day just to let me know that this is not something that's relevant to you. Now, there are those replies that give us a little bit more information, however, and that can be a little bit interesting. So I've got one here that says, hello, and then it's the name of the client. So they've obviously read the email because they've written her name. Thank you for contacting us, but we have in-house functions around this. Take care, and then she's put her name. So that's giving us a little bit more than just a no, but it's not giving us a huge amount. How would you reply to that one?
Oh, there's some critical information in there, right? So my inclination would be, and again, the point here is to try and get across the fact that I'm a human being. So I'd start by saying, look, firstly, thank you so much for replying. I really appreciate it. It's really interesting that you have a function that deals with this. That tells me straight away that you're taking this very, very seriously, which pleases me because it's something that I'm particularly passionate about. Just to learn a little bit more about that, when you say they're taking care of it, what part of it exactly are they doing? Now, again, this is opening up a dialogue and a conversation enough to learn about the customer, but also getting across the fact that I'm a human being as well, and it's not just like a cold email campaign, or even it's being automatically responded to, because people are more than likely going to respond to that. Now, let's explore this, because this is really interesting. 91% of organizations are happy to give a referral. Only 11% of salespeople ask for a referral. It might not be a sale that ends up in with that customer that you're interacting with, but you might turn around and go, look, do you know anyone else in your network that's taking it as seriously as you, but doesn't necessarily have the solution? Because I'd love to speak to them. And what you'll find is you might get 4 or 5 warm introductions to that company or that person that allows you to have a conversation.
Yeah, I love the idea of, and it can of course be an internal referral. Is who is it in-house that's looking after this? I like that. So we've got one here. This is a reply that's coming from a customer of ours that he's like a consultant, and he reaches out to users of a specific technology. So we know that they're using the specific technology. He reaches out to them as an expert with that technology to see if they need anything. Now then, they've replied and said, sorry, we're switching away from named technology and have marketing staff who do these things. I don't know much about it, but thanks for your offer. Now,
open goal, right?
His offer was just a free 30-minute consultation on a kind of a module within the application. So that I looked at that. I was like, oh, I'd be interested to see what the client replied, and he didn't reply. Just left it.
Right.
What would you do?
Well, again, I think there's a couple of really interesting opportunities there. Like straight away, I'll be turning around and saying, oh, that's really, really fascinating. Like, I'm seeing this a few times in the market, and I'd be interested to learn why you've made that decision. From what you're saying so far, it appears that it doesn't fall under your area of expertise. I'd love to learn more about what you know. So maybe I can add some value in this process of you switching over. To begin with, we don't need to talk about selling you anything, just keen to see if there's some value that we can exchange. And again, this is just a warm way of opening a door and us being able to get in there and offer something. Now, I'm a big believer in something called gives, right? So what do I mean by this is that in people's inboxes, they're so used to being asked for things, right? So people are being sent, a pitch on what they do with a Calendly invite saying, contact me and we can book in 30 minutes. More often than not, when I receive those, I don't read those. I'm a big fan of offering things for free. I'd love to learn about your business and talk to you about what I know, or, even the idea of I'd love to give you a 30-minute consultant around how we can potentially help. I think there's a really good opportunity here for that guy to maybe send some extra information about the technology that they're looking at moving over and say, here's some content that might be really useful for you guys when making that decision. Let me know if you want to sit down and chat about it, because I think we can have a really valuable conversation around this. So it doesn't have to be your content. It could be content that you can find online. It could be a report. It could be anything. It's just getting used to giving stuff to the customer for free and adding value during the process of selling them something. And I think that guy's got a great opportunity to do precisely that. I would not ignore that email. I'd be on that email straight away.
That's really interesting. That just, when you were talking, it made me think, would you always keep this in the context of email, or would you pick the phone up to that person and be quite daring? And would you do what you've just said? Would you keep it in email, or would you move it to a telephone? Would you move a negative like that to a phone call?
I mean, my instant reaction is to pick up the phone, because having that conversation, even if it's slightly warmer, by saying, hey, look, I appreciate your response to our email. I was going to email you back, but I thought I'd just give you a quick call to save us both a bit of time. That would be my instant reaction, is to pick up the phone. But we're living in a day and age now where we're all sitting in our front room and talking over Zoom, right? So it's a lot more difficult to do that. But again, when I'm constructing that email, I'd be trying to add as much value as possible to the customer without asking for too much in return at this stage. But yeah, my first port of call is always to pick up the phone, particularly when there's a degree of warmth and a little bit of familiarity as you've had a bit of an email dialogue.
So what typically tends to happen with us is that the vast majority of replies we get will have the email, or they'll have the first name, the last name, the mobile telephone number, and the job title of the person replying, a really short signature. And that, when I see that, I do think, oh, you know what, well, don't reply to him on email, just call him.
Yeah.
And I'm quite glad that you've said that that's something that you would do too. So I'm just going to have a look at a couple of others here, because I'm getting probably a bit more from this actually than I anticipated, especially when you mention the gives, because I like the fact that you talk about other people's content, because yes, if that comes from me, even if it is someone else's content, obviously there's a value transfer. It's like, oh, Duncan sent me something that's quite interesting here,
Exactly,
pretty relevant to my transition, technological transition or whatever it is. So I like that. So this person has said, and this is quite a normal one. We get a lot of these, or our clients get a lot of these. Thanks for getting in contact. This isn't something that we're looking into at this moment in time. Now, I would say that probably 90% of those are ignored. The client doesn't, they tick them as a negative and they don't do anything else.
Yeah, so the good news there is that they are looking for it, right? But they're just not looking at it for the right time. Now, there's a thing here where if we build enough value, maybe we can get it higher prioritized, but we've got to have that conversation with them. So my inclination would pick up the phone and say, look, I'm fully aware that this isn't a priority for you guys at the moment. In my experience, when this does become a priority, you want to actually nail it from a standing position. You don't want to nail it from a standing position. You want some momentum. What I'd love to do is to discuss this with you. So when it does become a priority, it's something that we can do to help you and add value, and at very least be on the agenda for this. Now, let's put this into context, right? Let's say hypothetically you're moving from one system to another. Although it's not a priority now, when it does become a priority, ideally you'd like to have done some pre-work associated with it. So the point here is that let me add some value while you're even going through the scoping stage. So when you are ready to make that decision, we've added a lot of value in that process as well. And we all know how these things work in businesses. Priorities are shifting constantly. And if we can make sure that we're there and we're on the agenda when that decision is being made or even discussed, it puts us in a good position. Just to reiterate on that, I would say, look, firstly, great that you guys are conscious of this, because it's clearly a big problem in the market at the moment. What I'd be really keen to do is to discuss this with you for when it does become a priority, you're not tackling it from a standing position. There's some degree of momentum, at very least knowledge, on how this can be solved quickly and efficiently. How's 15 minutes on Tuesday at 2 o'clock?
Yeah, you kind of, you're leaving it with a question there, aren't you? So you're kind of leaving the door open for them to come back to you and just, okay, let's squeeze this guy in. I like that. Yeah.
Or alternatively, if they come back to that and say, look, no, I can't do Tuesday at 3 o'clock, I'll be turning around and go, well, look, here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you guys some useful information during the course of the next couple of months. Hopefully this will help you when it comes to making that decision. And let's organize a call for maybe 6 months' time when it's more of a priority. But I'll make sure that I'm sending you this content because I know it's going to be valuable. And all of a sudden you're nurturing a lead. And when it does become to that, when it does get to that point where they're in a position to identify an option or even purchase, you're front of mind because you're nurturing that customer. When you look at the HubSpot, like the HubSpot pie chart that they have, it's about 83% of customers that you're reaching out to aren't really in a position to make a decision. There's about 13% of them that are actually investigating ideas. And I think it's 3% of people are actually ready to make a decision. Your objective with a cold outreach campaign shouldn't be about necessarily making sales. It's about building relevant pipeline and nurturing these customers for when they're ready to make a decision. You're positioned as the expert and you're positioned as the trusted advisor, and your product or service is positioned in that way as well. And that's a really important mental shift. Not everyone is going, right, I want to buy this right now at this second, or just waiting for the provider to come and talk to me. It's about educating the customer that you're the right person when that decision is ready to be made.
So what I'm actually hearing here is that, just because of the way my mind works, you're almost categorizing some of these replies that are coming in. And I've just made a note there. One of the things that you do, or one of the things that I think you're doing, is you're creating a category or box called thank. So all of the replies that come in that seem quite hard, or no, but they have taken the time to say no or whatever, it's putting them into the thank you box. So just showing your appreciation a lot. I appreciate you taking the time to respond to me, blah, blah, blah. You've then got another box which you seem to have created, which is investigate. So, okay, you've given me information about what it is that you're currently doing. I'd like to know a little bit more. So that's like a new box. If we then look at what I think is the last box you've created, which is give. So you've actually said, well, the guy's not given me much information here, or they have given me a bit of information, but I'm actually going to respond to this with a give. So if I say that we've got a little something here called TIG, like a bit of a game of TIG, you've got thank box, you've got investigate box, and you've got the give box, and there might be other boxes that emerge. But if I just run down a few now, just tell me which box you put them into. Would it be the thank box, the investigate more box, or the kind of give box? So does that sound like a good idea? We'll just go through a couple of just like one word answers. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so thanks for your note. I'm busy at the time, but we'll hold your details and get back to you if required in the future.
What do you think?
Well, I mean, you know what? I would probably say, obviously, I would thank them, but I mean, that would probably be thank and follow up. I wouldn't leave it with that person to have the responsibility of coming back to me. I would probably have another box here, but I would probably say thank and follow up. What would you agree with that, or is there something else that you'd bring to the table now?
Yeah, not to destroy all of your boxes, right? But anyone who'd get back to me, right, I would put them in some degree of a nurture campaign.
Yeah, nurture.
Yeah, because ultimately you've got someone there who's saying, look, this isn't a priority right now. I'm busy at the moment, therefore there's other things that are important.
Yeah.
And I'll get back to you and just go, well, great. Well, look, thanks so much for getting back to me. I really appreciate it. Look, as you can imagine, a lot of people I speak to are incredibly busy this time of the year because we've got XYZ and XYZ. Here's what I'm going to do for you guys. I found some interesting content. I'll ping it over. If there's some value in it, let me know. But let's just say that I'll keep sending you stuff that I think is relevant to what you guys are going for at the moment. Again, all you're doing is nurturing this customer.
So there's a little bit of giving going on there, then, isn't there?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's precisely what we're doing, is that when the decision's ready to be made, we want to be the top of mind. Or when they're investigating, we want to be a company that they reach out to. So if we can build a relationship over email by giving them stuff, every couple of months saying, hey, Sue, thought of you. I thought this might be really interesting because I know you guys are doing XYZ and XYZ. Let me know what you think.
Okay, so what I'm going to say there, because I'm going to do a little bit of a blog post in the newsletter for this as well. So what I'm going to say there is that give box is actually give and nurture. So yeah, I see the two things being the same things. Okay, so then we've got one here, which is, now this is hard no. We have no interest in this. We have no interest in this. That's a pretty hard no. I mean, I guess on there, we're just doing a thank, yeah?
Or maybe, again, like I think one thing that's massively underestimated over email is humor. Massively underestimated.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So I'd be in a position to turn around there and go, first of all, I really appreciate you getting back to me, but my
Smack it.
job title says sales at the bottom. And if I gave up every time someone said not interested, I
Yeah.
wouldn't have a job. So let
Yeah.
me ask you this. If I can show you one thing that's going to demonstrate value, will it earn me the right to grab 15 minutes of your time? And I tell you what, I'll even buy you a virtual coffee as well. How does that sound? And again, it's just injecting a little bit of humor and something that's going to stand out from an inbox, right? People are so used to these bog standard company approved responses where it's like almost like a robot's written it out. Humor just cuts through all that noise straight away, and someone thinks, there's a human being at the end of the line here. And that's really, really valuable. So again, just to reiterate, I'll be like, look, as you can see from my job title, it says salesperson. If I gave up every time that it said, someone said I'm not interested, I probably wouldn't have a job. So let me ask you this. If I can show you one thing that's going to demonstrate value, will it earn me the right to grab 15 minutes of your time? If not, we can go on our separate ways and at least we've made a friend.
I like your style, Aaron. So thank you, but ...
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
So I'm conscious of your time, so I'll just do a couple more, okay?
Yeah, sure.
So this person has said, we have a system in place because this client is using us to reach out to specific decision makers through the platform to introduce their system. Obviously, it's relationship development, and they're introducing their system based on our criteria around that company. And this person has replied, we have a XYZ system in place, which we are not looking to change. Thank you for contacting us. However, we don't wish to take this further at this time.
Oh, brilliant. That's great. So straight away, the implication there is that they have a need, right? I mean, look, they're not ready to buy anything because they're really happy with what they've got. But much like anything in life, you can be happy with what you've got, but when someone shows you another alternative, there's immense value in it. So again, I would approach this of being overly appreciative that they responded. And then I would diffuse it by saying something like, look, firstly, thanks so much for getting back to me. I really appreciate it. As you can imagine, most people I speak to are usually using something to solve this problem. What I'm keen to understand at this stage is, what was it about that product that really stood out to you? Because straight away you're engaging in a conversation, right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, you're learning about their needs.
Right.
That's really key, right? And again, I'd ideally rather do this over the phone because then it seems a lot more natural than over email. But I call them and go, look, I really appreciate you getting back to me. Like, it's great that you guys are taking this issue seriously. As you can imagine, most people I speak to are doing this already. What is it about that system you really liked?
Right, so you used a real anchor word there. You used a kind of a cornerstone word there when you used the word diffuse. So what you're doing is you're saying thank you to the person that has taken the time to reply, and then you're diffusing the situation using a bit of humor. If I was to just sit back and take a no as the ultimate end of the conversation, then I wouldn't be doing my job, kind of thing, or similar wording. And then so you're actually creating a 3-part reply. So thank, diffuse, and then investigate.
Absolutely.
So I really like that.
Here's the thing, right? Here's the best way of thinking about this. I always try and get the people I train to think about it this way, right? Do you know when you walk down any high street in England and there's like a failed drama student with a clipboard who's trying to sell you charity? Yeah? What's the first thing you say to those people? No, not interested. Step away from me. You'll say whatever to get away from them. They want your time and they want your money, and you get nothing in return, right? Now that's the think about the way you're constructing an email. If you're going to be the charity worker, you're not going to get a lot of responses. Now, you've probably been outside a train station as well, where they're giving away a new type of promotional milkshake, or they're giving away the company's giving away a new type of chewing gum, whatever it is. What do you do then? Well, you stop and you queue up and you get that free item, yeah? Because you're getting something in return.
Right.
And this is the key thing about email outreach. You've got to give away something. No one cares about you. You can sit there going, we're amazing, we're the best, everyone wants to buy our products, but the recipient isn't getting anything. If you sit there and go, there's a really interesting trend going on in the market at the moment, and we think it might be affecting you. We're seeing this, and this happen. And ultimately it's causing this. We're helping companies with this at the moment. That's different. You're talking about a problem that's of value to me, and then you're offering a solution second.
Right. Okay.
You see
So
the difference between the two?
yeah. I mean, you've got to know your client's problems when you're doing stuff like that, haven't you?
100%, 100%.
But I suppose when you do talk about that problem, you become super relevant because
And an
the
expert,
clients. Yeah,
and an expert, right? You've got
yeah,
credibility.
I love
You
that.
sound
I
credible.
love that. So, and I love your analogy where you've got the charity worker on the high street and the chocolate shop in the in the in the station forecourt. I've had that myself going through King's Cross. You know, they're giving away Red Bull or something, and I'll go over and get one, and then I'll walk out the station onto the high street, and I'll see a group of charity workers, and I'll turn and go in the other direction. You're absolutely right. I love that one.
The way to think about that, Duncan, is this, right? What we're actually talking about here is a fair exchange of value, right? By you reading my email, I've got something, you've got something from me. You've learned something, or I've equipped you with a piece of knowledge, or I've shown you a solution to something. I'm more likely to respond. If you're just asking me for something like the charity worker, I don't get anything from it. It's not a fair exchange of value. And it all comes down to the composition of that email and what you're giving away for free. So this concept of free gives to one get is really important. Give something 3 times, and then you've earned the right to ask something back.
3 gives to 1 get. Okay. So I get the feeling that we could just spend, or I could certainly spend all day just going through all of these. I mean, there's hundreds of them, but I know that your time is precious. I want to say thank you. I really do appreciate you taking half an hour out of your time just to go through these things. And I know that the customers I work with are going to benefit. I mean, these are real life responses that I'm reading through, and they don't reply to them. And it's really going to be food for thought. So one of the things that might come of this, however, is that people might want to get in touch with you, Aaron, and they might want to know a little bit more about how you can help them. So if I was a customer and I was watching this and I was like, you know what, I've been doing this wrong, I need help with this. How would somebody reach out to you? How would they go about, connecting with you?
Yeah, sure. So I run a free sales training YouTube channel where I train everything from email responses right through to negotiation, and it's completely free. That's Aaron Evans Sales Training, and that's Aaron to spell Aaron. Or alternatively, I'm on LinkedIn, Aaron Evans. I think I'm one of about 4 people on there. Get in touch with me. You can't miss me. Really long hair, really big beard. You'll see who I am. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions or help in any way that I can. I really enjoyed this. It's been really good, and hopefully your audience will get a lot of value from it.
I think they will. I have anyway, and that's enough for me. But just to double check that's your YouTube channel is Aaron Evans
Sales Training.
Sales Training. Okay, and if somebody just searches for that on YouTube, they'll get your channel. Then they can subscribe, and if they wanted to actually reach out directly, then the best thing is to find you on LinkedIn, Aaron Evans. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, find me on LinkedIn, and I'll answer any. Just connect with me, and I'll answer any questions that anyone's got.
That's brilliant. Thanks so much. I know that we've just gone slightly over that 20 minutes, but I really do appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. And guys, if you want to get into touch with Aaron and talk to him, you've got the links to do it. And feel free, connect away. That's it for now. And again, big thanks to Aaron. Cheers, buddy.
No worries at all.